You have stress inside of major exchanges, all of these deliveries. The LBMA, as we've talked about, is bleeding. The LBMA has 2 billion ounces in contracts that should stand for delivery. They're deliverable contracts backed by a 140 million ounce float. In other words, they have sold those 140 million ounces over and over and over and over and over and over, thinking no one ever stands for delivery. But now all of a sudden, everyone's standing for delivery. What could possibly go wrong? And at the same time, you have the largest player in the market flipping from short to long. And that's why this cycle is different. It's not financial; it's geopolitical.
There's more, yeah, and
Yes.
the fact that it's everybody's realizing it's for big tech or for high tech and military.
This is a bigger deal altogether, and it is, and it's about the realization that the physical metal is more important and worth more than the
That's what's
currency
happening.
behind it. But
And
no one ever stood for delivery on these exchanges. That's what's breaking the whole system.
well, and years ago, I had conversations with people talking about so more futurists talking about how silver was going to completely change because they've come out with ways to coat silver because because it's very conducive, but it corrodes. But they have new ways of dealing with silver so it no longer corrodes in a it will eventually, but in the lifespan of the equipment that they're using it won't corrode. So now suddenly it's a game changer in how silver is used and needed in military and high-tech equipment because it doesn't corrode and it's significantly better than other metals for conductivity. So suddenly we're dealing it's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, and it's needed everywhere. It's needed in military equipment, high-tech military equipment. It's needed in water purification and medical uses up the yin yang. It's used in solar panels, which are increasing. It's used in anything that's digital, electronic or electric. In a digital world, it's needed. And I
Because
think
it's the
that's the
most conducive.
realization.
Yeah, it's the most conducive material. Graphene is, but graphene's a different deal. That's actually the most.
Nothing conducts heat or light on the planet better than silver. Nothing.
Yeah,
And
there
so
is.
that's why it's used. I mean, like in high-tech military components, it's needed because the heat is such that everything else kind of,
That's right.
whittles away.
Yeah.
But silver is a far better conductor of heat and light than just about anything, but only in small amounts, right? So it's called inelastic. You need just a little bit for a bigger product that costs much more. They don't care what it costs. They need it. And that's why you're seeing all this metal leave the
Way better
ecosystem.
than
Like,
gold. Right. I mean, because gold is used because it wasn't corrosive to say, but now that it's bypassed, now it doesn't have those corrosive issues, and it's way better than gold.
yeah, and gold has been agreed upon by the world as a monetary instrument, and you're seeing it largely being reintegrated into the system in the global south, and you're seeing huge gold deliveries into this country every month. Both gold and silver are the whole narrative is flipping with them, and the
Yes, it
big
is.
money does it, sees it, and is taking advantage of accumulating it and standing for delivery. Well, the public hasn't caught on yet. Your
Well,
listeners have, but the public hasn't.
yeah, well, you've been talking about it since 2019 that there's somebody bringing in all this stuff. And it seems like they've been planning. You said the most sophisticated buyers know something is going on. So they've been building this up, building it up, holding the prices down, building it up. And now it's like, okay, we got a shitload in our in our
If
reserves.
you were
Let's
worth
let the
$5
prices
billion,
go.
Sarah, if you were worth $5 billion, do you think that you would know the rich and famous or the powerful people? You would. You don't get that kind of money without being at the highest level of the game.
That's right.
And when you're at the highest level, you know the insiders, and the insiders are telling their cohorts this is what's going to happen. So slowly, using the suppression of rhetoric and of price all these years to cover what they were doing. And you wake up one day and be like, wow, what happened to the price of silver? How the hell did that go? And why are all these deliveries happening? What about the delivery delays in London, which are 8 weeks? It's supposed to be one day, T plus one, you get your silver. Now it's T plus 8 weeks because the Bank of England says we have a shortage of manpower and trucks and such demand. Really? So the Bank of England doesn't have enough trucks to move my silver. That's a problem. I have to wait eight
It's
weeks
really happening.
they're getting their delivery failures. They're running into their bluff being called by countries and sovereign wealth funds that were never coordinated or motivated to take on the West, never wealthy enough to do so. But when you get, central banks and sovereign wealth funds on the back of central banks, you're dealing that are now very wealthy. You know, these countries were third world 20 years ago, but now all of a sudden they're wealthy, motivated, coordinated, sophisticated, see exactly what we're doing and say, ha, you want to hold down the paper price? Great. We're going to stand for delivery because these contracts give us the reason or the ability to do so. Even though nobody ever did, we're gonna. And that's what's changing the game. It's the huge deliveries that has rewritten the rules. And when you have a system based on trust where no one stands for delivery, that's Bernie Madoff. You kill it. But when everyone says, Bernie, I need my money, Bernie, where's my money? Bernie, where is my money? 8 weeks. What do you mean, Bernie? Well, Bernie's dead, was in jail. The point of it is that it's the same thing. Bernie is the LBMA, and
Well, Bernie
Bernie
used to be
is
the head of the NASDAQ. I mean, he was
that's right.
really, really respected.
Well, and so was the LBMA. The
Exactly.
LBMA is a 140-year-old exchange, the oldest on the planet. Really, and you could argue the same thing is true with many of our institutions that used to be really respected, and that's why no one wants our treasuries anymore. The judicial system, the political system, the immigration system, the massive fiscal irresponsibility. In the 6 weeks we were closed as a country, the government, they added 600 billion in debt. You can't even make that up. We're doing $1 trillion every 100 days. So all of these questions, including using the treasury bill or the bond market and the currency and the SWIFT system as a weapon, all of the things that we have done, all of the missteps backed by nothing but trust from an insolvent nation who has trampled on the moral high ground that we really stood on after World War II, that we were the beacon of freedom and justice in the world. A lot of people look at this country and say, what the hell happened there? You know what? I think I'd rather own gold instead of treasuries. And then you look at the gold market has doubled the performance of the 10-year treasury for 25 years. Last year, the treasury was up 4.5% and gold was up 45. This year, the treasury is up almost 4 and gold is up 60. Silver's up 100. So it's the measuring stick that we are measuring against that is wrong. But the world looks at the dollar and our institutions, both political and judicial, and the moral high ground that has been trampled upon by us, where we can, invade Iraq mistakenly, not find the weapons we think are there, destroy their country, and we're still there 22 years later, and say that's the country that's imposing rules upon a country like Russia, judge, jury, and executioner. And I'm not passing any judgment on the war, just simply saying it's not for us to do this stuff. And that's why we're seeing no one want to buy our treasuries anymore. And that's why you're seeing that
actions have consequences.
Yes, they do. And that's why you see the Genius Act that will be into effect no later than January 1st, 2027, or maybe even sooner if the regulators hurry up. But that's why it's synthetic demand for the treasury market. And because then you throw in the Japanese yen carry trade it's going upside down. And you're seeing all of these treasuries that have been owned by the Japanese pension funds that are all being sold, which will push rates up even more. This is a system that's I think, just beginning to show the cracks. You got fiscal irresponsibility, massive debt accumulation, and the demand for our currency and our debt fades. And then you get central banks step in, which is to monetize the debt, which erodes confidence. The only winners in that game are real assets, and that's what survive. And that's what gold and silver and all commodities represent. It's not to get wealthy. It is wealth that will survive a system of paper promises that starts to unwind.